Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I have the honor of presenting you our first Death World Cycle Proxy Warlord match. At the bottom of our screen, played by Guy Lev, we see Epistolary Vezuel. He's our first Death World Warlord. He's going to be released in Pack 2, but because we've got the entire spoilers for Jungles of Nectavus, Pack 1 will be able to proxy the Epistolary as though we know his entire card pool that's going to be available upon his release, with the sole exception of possible allied cards. At the top of our screen, we've got Thomas Wyatt Mellor. He's going to be playing as Talyesin Fharenal, and both of our players are deciding whether or not they want to keep their opening hands here. Vezuel did decide to mulligan, and his ability as a reaction is after he deep strikes a card, he's got the opportunity to draw a card. Looks like Thomas has decided to keep, but because Deep Strike is the cool new kid on the block, let's take a look at Guy's hand here. So he's got Tactical Squad Cardenas, Honored Librarian, Blood Angels Veterans, both very standard inclusions here, but he's also got Inquisitor Caius Roth. He's got a copy of Vengeance, where when one of his units is destroyed, he can ready a Space Marine unit. Looks like his opening deploy is going to be Inquisitor Caius Roth at planet number 1, Farron the Route, a non-Warlord unit planet, and that's going to be both players having to discard down to 4 cards. We do see 2 different Deep Strike cards in Vezuel's hand, as Thomas discards a Doom. The first of these is going to be the Valkyrie Pattern Jump Pack, and the way that Deep Strike cards work is you pay 1 resource to put them face down at a planet, and that's called being in reserve, and then when a battle begins at any planet, you can pay their associated cost in order to deep strike that card, and that is turning them face up. So we've also got a copy of Vezuel's Hunters here. This is a Deep Strike army unit. You play it in reserve, face down for 1, and then at the beginning of a battle, you Deep Strike it for the additional cost of 1. As a reaction, after you Deep Strike it, you deal 2 points of damage to a target enemy army unit at its same planet, and do bear in mind that whenever Vezuel Deep Strikes a card, he rewards you with letting you draw 1 card. So the Inquisitor Caius Roth definitely hurt both players early on, but the Epistolary excels when it comes to doing that whole card draw thing, so it definitely puts Taliesin at a bit of a disadvantage here. We can see we've got a face-down Deep Strike card at planet number 1. That happens to have been a copy of Vezuel's Hunters, so that's going to be a 2/2 Deep Striked for the cost of 1. You can flip it for the cost of 1, and it's going to be 2 points of damage to a target enemy army unit at that planet upon Deep Strike, and that's going to be a card for Vezuel, which could be a shield, any sort of combat trick or anything along those lines. Here at planet number 1, Taliesin is going to be all about warriors and psychers. We've got a warrior and a psycher at planet number 1. It's going to be a copy of the Kabbalite Strike Force, a 2/2 with AE1, and we've got a copy of Warlock Destructor, which is a 3/4 psycher, and if it survives, you've got to pay resources or discard it during the deploy phase here. Looks like there's a whole hell of a lot going on at planet number 1. Tactical Squad Cardenas is also going to be deployed at that location, so it's got area effect 1. That's going to be 2 command icons versus 1 command icon. I'll be really curious to see where exactly Epistolary Vezuel goes. Planet number 2, by the way, is Yavvarn, which puts units into play. Planet number 3 is going to be Planum, which is going to be a reasonable, it's going to be a reasonably desirable destination for either of our players, just to potentially move a big beefy unit like Inquisitor Caius Roth. And then of course Eloith would be a bunch of cards, which Glaive Guy could potentially go for, and then Karnath could really be anything, which could strike a nice balance between resources and cards if the Epistolary would rather go there, and then he could still benefit from Karnath's card effect. Looks like Taliesin is going to go to planet number 5, which is Karnath, the trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play planet, and Epistolary Vezuel shows up at planet number 3. So this is pretty interesting. It's going to be 2 planets worth of command for Vezuel and just 1 planet worth of command for Talyesin. It's going to be a card and 3 resources for Glaive Guy. He got another copy of his signature arm unit, Vezuel's Hunters, which is currently in reserve at planet number 1. And Thomas instead just got 1 card, 1 resource. So we got a copy of Gut and Pillage if he wins the battle here at planet number 1. That is going to be his opportunity to win 3 resources. And he's also got a copy of Mind War, which is going to be rather relevant to our first planet combat here. He's got an adequate number of resources to use this card, and it affords him the opportunity to exhaust a target non-elite army unit at a planet with a Psyker he controls. So this Warlock Destructor is currently enabling him to do that. At the onset of battle, we've got our very first card to be deep striked on this channel, and it's going to be Vezuel's Hunters here. It's a 2/2. It's going to deal 2 points of damage to the Kabalite Strike Force. Are we going to see a card discarded as a shield or not? The Kabalite Strike Force is destroyed, so it's not going to have an opportunity to do Area Effect 1, but kind of the crummy thing about the battle here on the first planet is that Vezuel had the initiative in the first place, so that Kabalite Strike Force probably would not have had the opportunity to attack regardless. Now it's going to be no more than this mere Warlock Destructor against the units here at the first planet, and it looks like there's a slight misplay here by Thomas. He's very courteous in allowing me to, you know, like enlist him in proxying these games here, but he's a little bit new to the Octagon interface, so ever so slightly out of order. The Tactical Squad Cardenas is going to be using Area Effect 1 because, of course, Guy Lev, our Vezuel player, has initiative. That is going to be a single point of damage, presumably dealt to our Warlock Destructor. And now the Destructor is going to have an opportunity to attack. Will it try to kill the Hunters? Will it try to kill Tactical Squad Cardenas? All of these units are going to be swept up into Vezuel's HQ, but Vezuel is going to be afforded the opportunity to relocate one of these units at planet number 1, presumably Inquisitor Caius Roth, to the same planet as is Talyesin, and that's going to be a 3/5 versus that 2/6 there that is not actually able to do much of anything. So Tactical Squad Cardenas is going to be killed, the Warlock Destructor is going to be killed, Theron is going to be triggered, and that is going to be no units routed. So remember that Talyesin is all about warriors and psychers. Any warrior or psycher at her planet gets +1 HP, and if you control both at the same planet, then that is going to be a total of +1 HP and +1 attack to So whether you're Psyker or Warrior, you always get +1 HP, and if you've got a Psyker and a Warrior unit at the planet, then all Warriors and Psychers get +1 attack. So, interestingly enough, it looks like Guy did not decide to have Inquisitor Caius Roth go after Talyesin. Instead, he set up the Inquisitor at Yavvarn, the soon-to-be first planet, and that's going to afford him to presumably win the battle at this planet without any further investment. He's only got a red material type icon in his victory display at present, and that is also going to mean that during the following round, he's likely going to be able to have like 2 red icons and then a green and a blue as well. Looks like Thomas decides not to use his Gut and Pillage. I'm curious as to whether that was a mistake or not, that he did not use that effect upon winning a battle here at a red planet. But we move into our HQ phase. That's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players. Initiative bounces over to Thomas. At planet number 1, he lays down a copy of Swordwind Farseer, and for the cost of 3, it's going to let him take a look at the top 6 cards of his deck for any 1 card he would like. No restriction whatsoever. He can add that to his hand, and then put the remaining cards at the bottom of his deck. So this will be a test of Thomas's familiarity with the Octagon functionality as to whether or not he knows how to put them on the bottom of his deck, and I'll just say simply drag the cards in order to the bottom side of your deck. An arrow will appear, and placed cards will appear on the bottom. So I'll just go ahead and spell it out for him like that. But in assessing Thomas's hand, he does have a Biel-Tan Guardian, Warlock Destructor, to start reestablishing himself economically, to try to feed into his command. He's got a copy of Biel-Tan Warp Spiders, which is a warrior, and that's probably the best thing it's going to do for him. Guy has decided to put another card into reserve at planet number 1. It's going to be the Valkyrie Pattern jump pack, so he puts it in reserve for 1, and now he's going to be able to deep strike it for, I believe, the cost is a whopping 0. That's going to give an attached unit flying, and Inquisitor Caius Roth as a 3/5 flyer is going to be incredibly nasty indeed. So I'll be very curious to see how things end up going for Guy. I don't see this 2/2 being able to put up much of a fight against a 3/5 flyer. Thomas lays down a copy of Biel-Tan Warp Spiders, and after it's declared as an attacker, you can discard one of the top 2 cards of a player's deck, but I'm not exactly sure if that's going to do enough for him. Maybe if Talyesin shows up at planet number 1, she'll be able to make all the difference in the world, because she's a 2/6. The Swordwind Farseer is going to be a 3/3. Then the Biel-Tan Warp Spiders is going to be a 2/4. But at planet number 3, we've got that Biel-Tan Guardians potentially winning a total of 2 cards here for Taliesin, unless Vezuel shows up at that planet. We've got a 10th Company Scout at Taurus. We've got another card in reserve at planet number 1, and that is going to be another copy of Vezuel's Hunters. Clearly, I cannot discern the identity of these cards upon mouse over, but by looking at our chat log and having commit to memory what we're proxying for what, it reveals the identity for me, whereas Thomas, when he sees his chat log, he sees, Glaive Guy has put X card, not X card, A card face down on the tabletop here. So at planet number 1, looks like there is a lot of stuff going on. We've got an Honored Librarian at that planet as well, which is going to be a 4/2 that's not directly targetable, and we've got a 3/5 that is presumably going to be gaining flying, and I take it to mean that means that this Honored Librarian is going to be relatively unmolested for quite some time. That is just absurd. We've got a copy of Vezuel's Hunters, which could deal a considerable bit of damage upon being deep striked, and Glaive Guy here is just banking upon gaining it at least 1 resource in order to deep strike his Vezuel's Hunters at the end of combat. When a planet is either captured or disappears into the ether, any cards left in reserve are discarded. So that's a small bit of a gamble there, but I would imagine this 10th Company Scout at least will end up accruing 1 resource for Guy. I'll be very curious to see where exactly he decides to send his Warlord. I was predicting that Taliesin was going to be showing up at planet number 1, but interestingly, Vezuel goes to planet number 4. Taliesin perhaps just dodges a bullet by not committing herself to planet number 1, only to potentially get butchered by Caius and the Honored Librarian. So let's see what exactly is going to be happening here. In regard to command, we've got 3 command icons versus 2 is going to be command struggles 1 at 1, 3, and 5 for Taliesin, which is going to be a total of 3 cards and 2 resources for her. Glaive Guy gets a card and a resource, and in his hand he's got a copy of Vengeance to ready a Space Marine upon one of his units being destroyed, and he's also got a copy of his 3 shield value card here, Fool Garrus. So remember that each and every time a card happens to be deep striked, Epistolary Vezuel is going to end up drawing a card, and it looks like that is going to be a couple of cards this round here. So the previous round, when he deep striked Vezuel's Hunters, that was a card. They're going to be just sitting here at this planet to presumably just fight as a 2/2 unless he ends up finding his signature support, which can put deep strike cards back into reserve. So Thomas has got a fair few kind of not exactly tricks, but I guess he does have some tricks. I'll be really curious to see how combat goes for him, because he does have a copy of Mind War, and he also has a copy of Gift of Isha for hopefully when this Warlock Destructor is destroyed. We see the first Deep Strike card being revealed. That's going to be that Valkyrie pattern jump pack affixed to Inquisitor Caius Roth. Glaive Guy draws a card, which ended up being a copy of Crushing Blow, and now Glaive Guy is going to Deep Strike another card, which is Vezuel's Hunters. That's going to be another card drawn by Glaive Guy, and that is going to be 2 points of damage dealt to that Warlock Destructor. Granted, it is shieldable, and also just note that the initiative token is at the very least going to be in Thomas's possession. He's got 2 Psychers at this planet, so he's going to be readily able to use a copy of Mind War to, say, exhaust Inquisitor Caius Roth or the Honored Librarian, and let's see how combat goes. Glaive Guy did actually end up drawing a copy of his signature support. This is the Dark Angels Cruiser as a deploy action, which is a fantastic stall. You can exhaust it to put a target unit you control at a planet in reserve. So not an attachment, and of course not an event, but he could use this the following turn. It costs 0, that buys you a deploy action. It uses a deploy action, so you could give up Vezuel's Hunters winning command at this planet in order to put them at reserve, and maybe you decide to lose a command struggle so that you can destroy an enemy economy unit or something, because recall that you can deep strike a unit whenever a battle takes place, as opposed to just a battle at that planet. So we've got combat here at planet number 1. There's going to be no actions we've done. Our deep striking, the Warlock Destructor takes a swing of 3 at Vezuel's Hunters. Will we see something used as shields or not? We've got that 3 shield card Fulgaris if Glaive Guy wants to have Taliesin's attack against the 10th Company Scout be routed, but he doesn't really have a drop pod assault or anything like that to back up that 10th Company Scout, so I wouldn't be shocked to see nothing too terribly surprising happen there. Warlock Destructor does manage to kill that copy of Vezuel's Hunters, and now it's going to be the time for the Honored Librarian or Inquisitor Caius Roth to take a swing. Interestingly enough, we do not see a copy of Mind War used. Let's say Thomas is going to lose the battle at the first planet here. If all 3 of his units die, he could drop down to a unit count lower than Vezuel, and as soon as he does that, if he wins Taurus, he'll be able to trigger that battle ability. So, Honored Librarian is going to be taking a swing at the Bealtan Warp Spiders, and that lowly 1/3 is going to be outright destroyed prior to its opportunity to get Glaive Guy to end up discarding any cards. And now, what exactly are we going to see in response? Do we see a copy of Mind War tap Inquisitor Caius Roth or not? It's going to be Swordwind Farseer attacking for 2, cut down to 1, means Inquisitor Caius Roth only has taken 1 point of damage, and presuming actions are going to bounce back to Guy that we do not see Mind War. Yeah, so Inquisitor Caius Roth is not an elite. He wouldn't be immune to Mind War, so he swings for 3. Is that going to be a dead copy of Warlock Destructor? I suppose it's a good opportunity for us to use Gift of Isha to return that unit to play. It'll be able to deal 2 points of damage to Inquisitor Caius Roth, and I can only imagine that is maybe what's preventing our Yep, there we go, because I was going to say Thomas has only got 2 resources in total. He doesn't have enough for Gift of Isha and Mind War, unfortunately, so that's going to be that Warlock Destructor being returned to play. That's kind of the ideal time for it, and I suppose should Inquisitor Caius Roth end up being destroyed, that would normally be a good opportunity to use Vengeance, but unfortunately Vezuel is fresh out of resources. So Warlock Destructor takes a swing of 3, cut in half, rounded up to 2 against Inquisitor Caius Roth. We do not see a shield used, and that's going to be the Inquisitor sitting at 2 points of HP remaining. Never mind. We actually see him just take 1 point of damage. Vengeance is going to be discarded. And now we're going to come to the end of a combat round. Both of our players are going to be fresh out of resources. The only trick we could see used is going to be that copy of Crushing Blow. And all of our units are going to be readying. Will we see any retreats? We are currently at 4 units versus 5, but it'll be 4 units versus 4 units if that 10th Company scout dies, so we've got to see Talyesin lose at least 1 other unit here. If Glaive Guy ends up winning this battle, he's going to have 2 red and a green and a blue icon, and then if he wins the next couple of planets, he'll be able to win through blue icons, or otherwise he'll have to win at our current planet number 4. We see a copy of Fulgaris discarded as a shield, which is a bit of a bummer. It's potentially powerful and really buffing up your Warlord, but we're seeing so many cards deep striked so early that I think that's kind of unlikely to end up making a big difference. Like, it's cool that it gives your Warlord a bit of an ephemeral attack and HP boost, but, you know, this is looking like we're probably not going to be seeing much use come out of it. So the Warlock Destructor's attack of 2 is going to be completely blocked by Fulgaris. Inquisitor Caius Roth deals that killing blow to the Swordwind Farseer, and now the Honored Librarian is going to, no matter what, deal a killing blow. Well, never mind. Warlock Destructor's got 4 HP. It's possible we could see it survive, but that would be silly, and I don't know. I guess it all comes down to, if you want to use a 1 shield value card, you can spare this unit's life unless we see Crushing Blow used, all to get another swing with your Warlock Destructor, and that's going to be the Crushing Blow overcoming Mind War. So for the second time, the Warlock Destructor is now going to be destroyed, and it looks like it's going to have to stay dead. That is going to be yet another combat won by Glaive Guy. He's going to have the opportunity to trigger that effect, should he choose to do so. I can only imagine he's not going to. He's only got Veteran Brother Maxos in hand, and I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. So that's going to be added to his victory display. We're going to be seeing a battle here at Karnath. We could trigger Planum, we could trigger the card search of Eloith, and we're not going to be able to see the triggering of Taurus, but I think what we could see is we could see Karnath trigger Planum to move Inquisitor Caius Roth or the Honored Librarian to planet number 4 here to harass Talyesin. So it looks like that's a little bit premature. Thomas was selecting his Warlord's planet, but of course first we've got to go to Karnath, and I can only imagine that Planum is going to deliver something very nasty to Talyesin. It's probably going to be this copy of Inquisitor Caius Roth with 3 HP remaining. Yes, it is. And of course, because we had to have our units come to the end of a combat round and ready, and then they have a combat turn, you know, it basically results in Inquisitor Caius Roth shows up to block Talyesin from being able to win at that planet. Talyesin herself has only got a 1 shield value card in hand. Talyesin is going to be fresh out of resources. Glaive Guy is going to be fresh out of shields, but Talyesin is going to have to swing at Inquisitor Caius Roth no fewer than 3 times just to be able to kill it, so she can use her initiative to maybe kill the 10th Company scout, but it'll come at the cost of an attack of 3, and then she's going to have to retreat, and then, as I'm known for saying, things could go all the way bad for Talyesin rather quickly, as if they weren't already looking a little bit grim here. So, with Vezuel having won at Planet 4, we're now going to see battle occur at planet number 5. I believe we've had 3 cards in total deep striked by Vezuel, so 3 cards is pretty damn good, and compared to Kato, who can generate a resource upon destroying a unit at his planet, an enemy unit, drawing 3 cards is pretty damn good. A lot of people value cards at roughly the equivalent of 2 resources, and I suppose at the moment, really, Glaive Guy's just got to keep up some sort of steady income to fund all these cards that he's coming across. So, both of our players get 4 resources and 2 cards apiece. Talyesin gets her favorite of her 2, well, my favorite of her 2 signature army units. It is Talyesin Spiders. Reaction is after a Psyker unit you control is declared as an attacker, you can move this unit to the same planet as that unit. So you could have this fight at planet number 1, it could go to your HQ, and then it could move to another combat where you've got a Psyker attacking, or you could play it out for command, and then it could move upstream to wherever you've got a Psyker attacking. We've got a couple copies of Prophetic Farseer. The initiative token is going to be in Guy Lev's possession. He's got a copy of the ever-popular Indomitable. He lays down his Dark Angel's Cruiser, which could put this Vezuel's Hunters back into reserve. And for any of these Deep Strike cards, note that the resource cost is in red, so you can deploy them conventionally for the normal price, or you can put them in reserve for 1 and then pay their Deep Strike cost in order to flip them. Another Deep Strike card that we've got in Guy's hand is going to be the 8th Company Assault Squad here, so it's going to be a 3/3 with a command icon for 3, or you can put it in reserve for 1 and then Deep Strike it for 2. After it's Deep Striked, you can ready a target Space Marine unit at this planet, but just do remember that you have to play those, you have to use all your Deep Strike effects at the onset of a battle prior to ranged, so you can't like Deep Strike this unit after you start declaring attacks and you have exhausted Space Marines. So it's great to work with your with units coming from your HQ, basically. We see that card in reserve at planet number 1, that 8th Company Scout, so depending on if we see Talyesin play any units to planet number 1, we might see that card Deep Striked, we might not, but it's definitely a fantastic bluff one way or the other. Like, you've had to invest a resource in planet number 1, but if your enemy doesn't play anything to that planet, maybe you choose not to Deep Strike that unit, and then you just spare yourself the resources. We see the Dark Angel's Cruiser use its deploy action not only to stall, but also to turn this Vezuel's Hunters upside down, because, you know, Glaive Guy wasn't going to be winning command at this planet anyways, and now he's going to be able to Deep Strike his Hunters and potentially kill this enemy copy of Incubus Warrior, and you can Deep Strike it even though there may not be a battle taking place at that planet. So this Talyesin Spiders is played out here for command, and it's at our new 5th planet, the last planet, final planet of the game, Ossus 4, the Steel 1 resource planet. Planet number 1 is going to be Planum. Thomas is totally out of resources. Glaive Guy spends the last of his resources on a copy of Veteran Brother Maxos at planet number 5, opposite this Talyesin Spiders, and 2 command icons is nicely going to trump 1. And now, where exactly are we going to send our warlords for each of these players? Looks like they're both winning command on 2 planets apiece. And where exactly is Talyesin going to show up? Where is Vezuel going to show up? He's got an Honored Librarian with him. And what he's going to want to do is he's going to want to win at least 1 resource to Deep Strike this unit to kill that Incubus Warrior with 2 points of damage. And he's also potentially going to want another couple of resources to be able to Deep Strike this unit. Vezuel could... I guess if Vezuel goes to planet number 1, he could Deep Strike this unit to ready his Honored Librarian. He could win the combat at this planet, and then he could send his ready Honored Librarian to whatever planet he would like to harass Talyesin. He's also got a copy of Indomitable, which he could use to preserve his Honored Librarian, even if it's alone, and it's going to be the recipient of an attack. So it looks like Vezuel is actually going to be showing up at 3 himself. Talyesin is going to be showing up at planet number 1, and looks like Glaive Guy may or may not Deep Strike the unit at this planet, which is a 3/3, and he's got that copy of Indomitable. That might be relatively difficult for... I guess, Talyesin to overcome. Thomas ends up getting a total of 3 cards and 1 resource. Glaive Guy gets a total of 2 cards and 4 resources. Thomas, at the moment, only has 1 resource. The topmost Eldar faction card of his discard pile is a Warlock Destructor, but with only 1 resource, he's not going to have enough to do that. Gift of Isha, again, this failure to use Gut and Pillage kind of coming back and biting him in the ass. Glaive Guy has got a total of 4 resources. We could see this this unit deep striked, and if that's the case, it's going to be a 3/3 at that planet, and if Taliesin dares attack, wouldn't you know it, looks like we got a couple of copies of Drop Pod Assault. So we could see a deep strike and a drop pod, and that is just looking like we may well end up seeing a bloodied Taliesin this round if she does not retreat. And of course, each and every time we get a card deep strike, that is going to be Epistolary Vezuel drawing a card. 8th Company Scout is going to be deep striked, and Glaive Guy is going to have the opportunity to draw a card. I'll just say, don't forget to draw, Guy. Just because I want to make sure that Vezuel performs as he well should be. That is going to be a copy of Rogue Trader added to our Space Marine player's hand, and looks like there's no reason to deep strike this copy of Vezuel's Hunters yet. I suppose you may as well leave it in reserve. Because, you know, Vezuel's going to be able to presumably clear out this copy of Incubus Warrior all by himself. So let's see what happens at planet number 1. Initiative is going to be in the possession of Taliesin, and she is going to have the audacity to attack. So that is going to be 2 points of damage to the 8th Company Assault Squad, and as is clearly depicted on their card art, they're going to be able to fight Warp Spawn and the demonic forces of chaos relatively efficiently. Let's see how they hold up against Eldar. So, Guy asks if there is going to be any action whatsoever. Thomas indicates no. That's going to be 3 points of damage dealt out to Taliesin unless we see Gut and Pillage, or we do see a copy of Gift of Isha used as a shield. And now let's see that good old-fashioned drop pod assault. So we've got deep striking units, we've got drop podding units, and the two of those are definitely going to make for one incredible kind of... No, it looks like that's not actually going to be the case. So, are we going to see Taliesin hang out at this planet? Looks like Guy was not close enough to bloodying this warlord to risk it. So, he's asking if his opponent is going to stay, and I can only imagine that Guy's thought process is he wants Thomas to overcommit. So, Taliesin has already taken a point of damage and used a 2-value shield card. We've got 2 resources for Guy. That is screaming drop pod assault. If Thomas stays and he swings, we could see drop pod assault discarded. That'll be 3 points of damage to Taliesin, and then if that drop pod assault hits on anything reasonable, that could easily be a bloodied Taliesin, and it could be Planum activated for Epistolary Vezuel here. Taliesin swings, and she is going to be blocked by a drop pod assault. That is going to be 0 points of damage, and now the return swing. It's going to be the 8th Company Assault Squad dealing 3 points of damage to Taliesin. Do we see Gut and Pillage discarded as a shield or not? We do, and that is going to be her at 3 hit points. Thomas has still got 5 cards in hand, but none of them are shields. Guy, of course, doesn't know that, but Thomas has been using a fair few shields, a fair few events. Will we see the drop pod assault? Yes, we do. Here's... I don't want to exactly say hoping, but it would be exciting. Let's see what we get. Do we have a copy of Blood Angels Veterans? I would only imagine there's probably 2 left in the deck. Do we have another copy or 2 of Honored Librarian left in the deck? We've probably got a copy of Veteran Brother Maxos. We've got some visuals. What is it going to be? It's going to be moved to the deck. It is going to, or moved to the playing surface. It's going to be no more than a lowly Visuals Hunters. So unfortunately, it's a 2/2. It is not going to be able to deal the killing blow, but it is going to be able to forcibly remove Taliesin from this planet. It is going to take a swing. That's going to be 2 more points of damage to Talyesin Fharenal, who I don't think has actually had the opportunity to derive any benefit from her passive ability so far this entire game. But if she stays, she could kill one of these 2 Space Marine units, but not both. And if she does decide to stay, then that means that she is going to be bloodied, so it is going to be her forcibly removed from this planet. So goodbye to Taliesin. Congratulations to Glaive Guy for winning this planet. That's going to put him at 2 green, 2 blue icons, and he could use Planum to move his Vezuel's Hunters to Eluith here, and then he could use his Dark Angel's Cruiser to put his Vezuel's Hunters in reserve. It looks like that's not actually going to be what's happening, though, is instead he just uses Planum to move Inquisitor Caius Roth, his 3/3 with flying, to his victory condition planet for the following round. Very interesting as well, we've now got battle taking place here at Epistolary Vezuel's planet. He's going to have the opportunity to swing first. That is going to be a dead Incubus Warrior, and I could only imagine that it's going to be either Ossus 4 stealing a resource from Thomas, or it's going to be Eloith triggered to add a card to Epistolary Vezuel's, like, to add one of the top 3 cards of Vezuel's deck to his hand. So is it going to be depriving his opponent of goodies, or is it instead going to be him just digging for something else in his deck? He's going to have a fair few units in his HQ here. I guess something we could have seen is Vezuel took a swing, killed the Incubus Warrior. We could have seen a retreat by him, and he could have removed this, like, he could have retreated with his Honored Librarian because of all of his units were exhausted, and then he could have sent his Warlord to planet number 1 the following round and brought the Honored Librarian with him. I think that's maybe what I would have done, but to each their own. The Honored Librarian is certainly going to be winning command for him, and it looks like Glaive Guy did decide to take a look at the top 3 cards of his deck, and I believe we've seen each and every copy of his signature army unit thus far, so that is going to be absolutely fantastic. Put in reserve at planet number 1, and then deep striking it. Again, you deal 2 points of damage to an army unit, and you get the opportunity to draw a card courtesy of your Warlord. This may well be the final round of the game. It's going to be another HQ phase having come and gone. The initiative token is now in Thomas's possession. It's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players. We've got a warrior, the Sybarite Marksman, at planet number 1, which I suppose with Taliesin's ability is possibly a 3/2 if we've got a Psyker at that planet, and Warlock Destructor I can only imagine is indeed going to be dropped at that planet if the Prophetic Farseer is not. Here at planet number 1, we've got another card laid down in reserve only to deep strike, presumably to kill off that Sybarite Marksman because Thomas was not so fortunate as to draw shields, and of course deep strike is going to be able to resolve prior to ranged, and even though we've got a Psyker and a warrior at the same planet, things are not looking like they're necessarily going to go spectacularly well for Thomas here. We've got a copy of Honored Librarian at planet number 1. We've got Inquisitor Caius Roth at planet number 1. We're going to have the 8th Company Assault Squad and Vezuel's Hunters showing up at this planet number 1 with Epistolary Vezuel himself. We do have a copy of Incubus Warrior, so this is going to be a relatively bloody last battle indeed, but I can only imagine that Glaive Guy's sweeping economic advantage is definitely going to come back and help him out in a big way, but this has been a pretty spectacular showing for Vezuel in this first game. Unfortunately, the Dark Angel's Cruiser is not going to be able to do anything beneficial for Guy whatsoever because I believe units have to be at a planet to be put into reserve, and neither of these deep strike eligible units are going to be at a planet, although, man, wouldn't it be nasty if this copy of Vezuel's Hunters was also sitting at planet number 1. So, both of our players have at this point passed. To no one's surprise, they each commit their respective warlords to planet number 1, and that means that is going to be 1 command struggle won by Thomas. Let's hope for his sake he manages to stumble upon a couple of 2-value shield cards, or hopefully a 2-value shield card and a 3-value shield card, because he's definitely going to need it to keep his warlord alive. Talyesin naturally has initiative. Taliesin may want to use that initiative to get off an attack with her because she is looking to get obliterated right quickly indeed. Glaive Guy ends up winning 2 cards and 4 resources versus the 2 cards of Thomas. Guy came across one of our new Legions of Death units. He's got a copy of Standard Bearer. He controls a non-Astra Militarum faction warlord, so for the cost of 3, he can ambush this unit into play play, and when he does, he can ready an army unit he controls at that planet. You know, there's scarcely a better target for that than Honored Librarian, so that's going to be incredibly nasty for Thomas as we wait for this Hunters to get deep striked. He got a copy of Nullify, which isn't probably going to do him too much good, but he also got a copy of Path of the Leader, so he can gain a resource, which isn't going to be useful at all. He could have a warrior gain +1 attack, or he could exhaust a Psyker to move it from one planet to another, so it's looking like he's going to have to use that for its +1 attack bonus. Do note that Taliesin spiders are at any point going to be able to move to this planet. Let's see here. Interestingly enough, prior to combat, we see Path of the Leader, unfortunately, and this is going to be a bit of a waste. So Path of the Leader is going to be used on the Sybarite Marksman. Taliesin is present. There are warriors and psychers present, so all warriors and all psychers are going to be getting +1 attack and +1 HP. The Sybarite Marksman is currently a 3-2, but Vezuel's Hunters, as we see right now, are being deep striked, and that's going to be 2 points of damage to the Sybarite Marksman. Maybe they're going to be killed by this effect, or we see a copy of Nullify discarded as a shield. And I was going to say, even if we see that effect shielded, the instant that Taliesin is bloodied or retreats from that planet, then 1 point of damage equals 1 hit point, and that is going to be a dead unit. Deep Strike meant that Vezuel ends up drawing a card, and I have totally lost track of how many cards that Epistolary Vezuel has ended up drawing this game, but it is quite a few. So I think Guy is just ensuring that his opponent did not want to shield because Thomas does have 5 cards in hand, so he's just doing the courteous thing. And I suppose, let's see here, so it's going to be 3 resources remaining for Guy. He's got that copy of the Hunters. He can do the ambush of a Standard Bearer, or he could use a copy of Indomitable, but if it were me, I'd definitely opt for the Standard Bearer. 2-2 and readying a unit seems like it's a much better value indeed. Initiative is going to be in the possession of Thomas, so even though his ranged unit is dead, he's got this 4-2 Incubus Warrior. It's going to take a swing at Epistolary Vezuel, which, you know, who kind of gives a shit. Epistolary Vezuel is a 2-6. He's pretty much done everything that he's shown up at that battle to do. I suppose if it were me, I'd have been much more likely to try to kill off a unit where I could actually make a difference in regard to the outcome of the combat. Like if I were to swing with the Incubus Warrior, I could have maybe killed this copy of Vezuel's Hunters, because now Epistolary Vezuel survived. He's going to have an opportunity to attack, and then if he's bloodied, who cares, because he's contributed his last attack to, I guess, just attacking that round. So it's going to be up to Guy. Is he going to use his Honored Librarian to potentially kill the Warlock Destructor? Or, alright, looks like that is going to be Epistolary Vezuel delivering an attack at Talyesin Fharenal. There is absolutely nothing that Taliesin is going to be able to do. 2-1 is still going to be 1, and it looks like Thomas does not know how to bloody his Warlord. I will say right-click and Bloody Warrior is how we do that functionality. So there we go. Like I said before, Thomas is a bit new to Octagon, but definitely not new to the game. So Taliesin is now bloodied. We can all enjoy her wonderful card art on the bloodied side. And now let's see what exactly occurs. It's going to be the Warlock Destructor dealing a likely to be bloodying blow to Epistolary Vezuel, but it's kind of like pissing into the wind. It's a little bit ineffectual, and it's a bit of a poor life choice. Guy, again, being courteous, is asking his opponent here if he would like to use the effect of Taliesin's Spiders, because this is maybe the only opportunity that Thomas will have to use this effect, but just for the sake of making this as educational and informative a video as is possible, do bear in mind, yes, Guy, there we go, I like that line of thought there. He says, do it for the viewers, so let's do it for the ladies and gentlemen, the children at home. That is going to be a copy of Epistolary Vezuel, and immediately this facade fades away. It was Ragnar the entire time, but Epistolary Vezuel is going to be bloodied. Of course, we were proxying Ragnar to take the place, or whatever. We were swapping Ragnar and Vezuel. The Honored Librarian delivers an attack at Talyesin Spiders. It's going to be outright destroyed. Do note that the Warlock Destructor is now a lowly 3/4 as opposed to the 4/5 that it briefly was when in the company of a Hail Talyesin Fharenal, and now it's going to be the Bealtan Guardians, no longer a 2/2. It's only going to deal 1 point of damage. It's going to be presumably destroying the that 8th Company Assault Squad, and this is going to be Inquisitor Caius Roth dealing an attack, or no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I missed this copy of Vezuel's Hunters. That is going to be a dead copy of Incubus Warrior now. Inquisitor Caius Roth is going to have the opportunity to take a swing, likely at this Warlock Destructor. At least that's what I would do if it were okay. No, I suppose I spoke too soon. You can also attack the Bealtan Guardians. I was going to say if it were me, I'd have attacked the Warlock Destructor, then I'd have used the Standard Bearer to, yes, stand the Honored Librarian, and then I'd have had the Standard Bearer kill the Bealtan Guardians, and in any case, looks like the Honored Librarian here is going to be able to deliver an attack against the Warlock Destructor. Will we see Nullified discarded as a shield? No, we do not. We've got a ready unit left, and it looks like that is going to be the GG, so Thomas calls it out. Glaive Guy has captured the planet. That puts him at 3 blue technology icons, and congratulations to Epistolary Vezuel for managing to triumph over Talyesin Fharenal. That is going to be our first Death World Cycle Proxied Warlord game, resulting in a victory for our first Death World Proxied Warlords. Viewers, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed getting a chance to see the Deep Strike mechanic in action. Let me know what you thought of this game in the comments below. What do you think that Taliesin could have potentially done differently to maybe salvage this match? It was a pretty brutal beating delivered onto her by Epistolary Vezuel, but perhaps in regard to deck building and overall strategy, there was something that Thomas could have done to try to stave off the relentless Space Marine faction onslaught. But thank you once again for watching. Congratulations again to Guy Lev, and thank you to both of our players for affording me the opportunity to publish this Death World Cycle proxy match. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. If you are already subscribed, share this video, help people to be exposed to Conquest LCG. More people watching these videos means more people might play the game. Fantasy Flight Games gets more dollars, more gets poured into research and development and the support of this fantastic product. Reach out to me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and if at any point you have any inclination whatsoever to help keep me alive and to help keep this channel pumping out content, I would be honored, humbled, and deeply appreciative were you to consider making even a paltry donation to my Patreon. So, once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.